What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and of course, Justine is along with me. Unfortunately, Justine did not join me for this episode. When we took our break for the holidays, poor Justine got COVID. She came down with it. We had this really wonderful episode planned, but we really wanted to give her time to feel better, get better before we went right into this brand new year. So she will be back. We have so much in store. Justine feels really, really bad that bad luck just carried in, but I know her and I are going to have a wonderful 2024. So, although I missed Justine on this one, she will be back, and I cannot wait for her special episode we have coming up. If you're new here, this is the show that showcases the importance of music and mental health. Remember, you can always find us on Instagram at stereo.therapy, stereo.therapy, whatever you want to say, as well as TikTok with that same handle. I really try with these reels, guys. I'm trying to get us out there in the algorithms and beat that. You can also head over to our website as well. All links below in the description. And also, if you are liking this thing, remember you could rate, review us. It would really mean a lot to Justine and I. And we just appreciate anyone that has taken the time to do that. You can do that on any platform you are currently listening to this right now. Today on the podcast, I had my wonderful longtime friend, Ashley Pineryo. She's a photographer, but she's also just a music lover. And I was really excited to have her on. And anytime we can have anyone on here and give them a platform to tell their story and for anyone to get to know them, I love to do it. So if you're a friend of mine and you're listening to this, we're all friends here if you listen to this podcast. So hit me up. We would love to have you on as well. But Ashley was just so wonderful, and it was so great to reconnect with her and talk about her love and impact of the band Fall Out Boy, Taylor Swift, also talk about mental health awareness in her own life, how music has made that impact and a connection to Taylor Swift that has meant a lot to her. We also dive into her photography, working with the Warped Band, which is a really cool band you're going to get to know in this. And I can't wait to see where she goes with this. It was a really great conversation, and I really loved having Ashley on for the first one of 2024. I will stop talking right now and just get right into it. Here is our conversation with Ashley Pineryo. Ashley, I'm so excited to have you on today and on the podcast, and you rearranging things to come on earlier because Justine has COVID. And I know this is like such a cliche thing to do, but if you want to give like a little introduction about yourself to the listeners so they get a feel for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. But my
Yeah.
name's Ashley. I am a assistant manager at Michael Kors full time. I also do photography. It's kind of been taking over most of my hours. And then I've actually been working with two different bands lately, just kind of photographing for them and helping out with promoting.
Oh, that's it. That's another reason why I wanted you on because my hope is like, with you getting into that, maybe somebody will hear this that needs that and it's a local or whatever, and they're going to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, let me hit her up." So anyone I look for that is doing something like that, because you never know. Like I feel like
Right.
there's such a platform here, and I don't know. There's a lot of listeners too that are either in bands or promote themselves. So it was just like such a perfect thing, and again, thank you so much because I know,
Of
like, we were
course.
supposed to do this a different date, but we made it work. And something, like, we like to ask too, and just so interesting for each person, but whether it's one or a couple, what are those first memories of you falling in love with music?
I think you know where this one's gonna go.
Yeah.
But you know, makes me feel old now to say it, but back in 2003, the first show I remember my dad just taking me to, I found Fall Out Boy on MySpace, and I was like, Dad, we're gonna go here.
Yeah.
And it was, it just changed my life. It was
Mhm.
the atmosphere, the energy. And from then on, I don't quite think my dad ever forgave me for the amount of traveling we did.
I think any of our parents, and it's so interesting you bring up MySpace. For me, I mean, it was the local aspect because of where I lived,
Right.
but a lot of it too was like pure volume. And once I heard of them too and hearing, oh, Dead on Arrival, and had no idea like we would still be sitting here and like now it's 2024, but 2024 is still listening to this band. I know you went to go see them play on that summer tour with Bring Me the
Yeah,
Horizon. It's just so wild to think about. We're sitting here,
still friends. And yeah,
still friends, still talking about it. And I was even wondering, like, how, because I don't even think I remembered this, but how did we even connect? Because I can't remember. Like, I know, I'm like, I feel like I've just known you forever. And like, oh, that's Ashley. Do you remember? I was like racking my brain thinking about this.
I think it was that flyaway in Pittsburgh in
Yeah.
2006. And then I think once I know who was I with? I was with Chelsea, Amber,
So, yeah.
and they couldn't hold them off of me. And I think at that point, Eric had said, take, like, he was trying to get Pete to get me up on the stage. 'Cause nobody could fend everybody off.
Hmm.
And I think at that point, that's when got back to the hotel. And I think we might have briefly talked then. And then I think it more started, once Eric passed away. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I know when Brian, Enrique, and Jackie, and anyone listening to
yeah,
this, these are just lifelong friends, but they came to visit me to go to that Fall Out Boy show here. And I know it was close to the anniversary of Eric's death, or they were just going to pass the gravesite. So they had visited him. And it kind of just put that in like, wow, like how long that's been. And just,
yeah.
I've only met Eric twice. And I mean, anyone listening too, he was a big Fall Out Boy fan who sadly passed away and very close with Pete and the guys. And I know they were so wonderful, but dang, like that flyaway seems so far. That was 2006. And I
I
think
know.
you're absolutely right because like when I was thinking about that too, I was like, I think it was the flyaway, but I don't want to misspeak. And then like it's like, no, you didn't meet me there. But that one was in
No, yeah.
Pittsburgh. And Mo and I were talking about the flyaway too. So like that's wild. Like the connection. And I mean, just talking about Fall Out Boy, how I know like maybe a little bit, but how else like did they make a big impact in your life?
I would say, just for my dad, driving to all these shows, it became a thing where, like you said with Pete, he remembers every face. He may not remember the name,
Right.
but he remembers you.
Uh,
And, same with like Patrick, sweet as a teddy bear, as we always call him. But it
mhm.
just became more of like a personable thing
Yeah.
versus, okay, I'm going to see this band play. No, there was more like that personal connection that kind of kept that alive.
Yeah, like for sure. Like that's how it's exactly what you said. Pete probably never knew my name, but any meet and greet, anything after a show, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but I wrote him a letter when I was in art school doing music business
Yeah,
because I was like, I want to write him to like let him know, or maybe it wasn't that. No, no. So no, I'm backtracking. So
you're
it was
okay.
an assignment that you had to go ahead and you had to write about something that impacted your life. And I wrote about Fall Out Boy. And it was so weird because it was at that time where Fall Out Boy, I mean, still now people poke fun at them. So I had to read this in front of my college class at Columbia. I'm like,
Yeah,
I believe in, and I paused. I'm like, Fall Out Boy. And like the silence in the room was just like, oh God. But again, everybody that got it. And so I wanted to give them the essay because I was
yeah,
like, I want them to know, like, hey, I'm going to art school because of you. I'm pursuing this
right.
because of you and like everything you did. And he literally, I remember he took it and who knows what happened with it. I don't know. Maybe he didn't read it. Maybe he's listening to this right now and he's like, oh, that girl. Maybe not. Absolutely not. He knew me. Like he was like, oh yeah, we go way back, like going to shows and this and that. And again, like that's not to brag, but it was just how they were. They were so
Yeah,
great to all their fans. And it was like without them, like we wouldn't know each other. So many of our friends, like we wouldn't have that community.
no, yeah, it really made, like, even when they helped, when Sam had her surgery, you
Hmm.
know, they
Yeah.
jumped right in. Joe sent the message.
No,
So,
I mean, I don't know. Like they just, on this last tour they were on, literally, they sounded so good. I think better than they have in years.
oh
And I know a
yeah,
lot of people gave up on Fall Out Boy, and I get it. Mania, okay, whatever. But that's another story. But
right.
like, which I still fight for some of those songs on that record. 100%. They're
Oh yeah,
still Fall Out Boy. I don't care. But they just were so good. I
It was
was
almost
there.
like the energy came back too.
Yeah, and I think too it was just wild to see the younger fans too, because there were so many younger people around me, and I was like felt so old, but I was just so proud too, because I was like, "This is so great for them," and I know this is kinda off guard too, but, like, what was the furthest you think you traveled for them?
As
Because I know.
much as I hate to admit this, I think it would have been down to Florida we went.
Wow. I don't think the furthest I went was the flyaway when I drove from Illinois to Pittsburgh, so that's wild. Oh my god, that's pretty but it was probably worth it, so who cares?
Oh, it was totally worth it for me.
It's a story, but it's and even talking about that, I mean, we have to talk and I know even thinking about this artist, people have a view on her, which I don't think is really fair, and even I talked about like, she showed up in my Spotify Wrapped, and I was like, "Guys, I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan." Like, we're gonna talk about Taylor Swift a little bit because I know she's huge for you, and she's made such an impact. What about her or her music has just made an impact in your life?
I was totally that person before where like, it's just Taylor Swift.
Yeah, right.
And it took when she finally came out about her eating disorder,
Mhm,
that's when I like halted. I was like, oh, okay, let me go back through these lyrics. And then it started to resonate. Okay, like this really does make a connection. And just kind of watching her advocate for it. If you've ever watched like any of the documentaries or anything, she, even with like Selena, she'll stick up for her when she gains the weight back from her lupus.
mhm.
So that really hit home for me.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't even know until I watched the documentary because I wasn't really sure. And I wasn't a hater of Taylor Swift. I just was like, "This isn't really for me," until I really
Right.
dove in a little bit, and I was like, "I get it." And, like, you see the crowds at all her tours. Like, it's insane the impact she's made on, like, young kids, older like, the
Yeah.
kids I used to nanny for adore Taylor Swift. Like, it would if they ever crossed her path, I don't know what they would do,
Right.
but it's like and I think that's so interesting because like, she is open with that, and that's one thing I respect about Taylor Swift is because I'm someone that battles with PCOS, and I mean, I know some of the guys listening are like, "What?" But
It's a thing.
it's a thing, and, maybe someone close to you deals with it, and there's times where I am, like, super, like and t like, how I would work because I work out all the time, but there's sometimes I have a flare-up, and I have, like, Selena Gomez where she talks about her lupus and, like, her moon phase. I get that so many times. And I loved that Taylor Swift was kind of bringing awareness to that too, be that, and standing up for her because so many women deal with these things. And there was like something Taylor Swift said where she was in a car. And maybe it was the documentary where she was like, if you're thin, you don't have, the fat ass. If you're, or if
Right.
you have the
It's
fat
always
ass.
this or that.
And I respect that so much about her. And I think she gets a lot of hate, but I think it's
Yeah.
also because people are just like, "Oh, we gotta see her again," but
Right.
I think she's larger than life, and you know what?
Yeah.
She's out there killing it, whether you love her or hate her, like,
You can't
I
deny that.
no, you can't, and, like, she literally each record, people go crazy for, and, I mean, I'm glad her music has been there for you for that because I can't imagine going through anything like that and not having an artist be upfront about that, and I do, and even, like, the political stuff, Taylor Swift is
Yeah.
out
She
there, and she talks the talk, like, she's out there and walking that walk of, "I wanna bring awareness for my fans," so
Yeah, she's not afraid to say what's on her mind or how she feels it should be.
no, and I had so much respect for her too when I watched, like, even, like, TikToks of this recent tour, how many
Mhm.
hours she's on there and she's singing and she's doing that.
In
Like,
the rain. Yeah.
me and my treadmill, I'm, like, dying. So, it's like, how am I can I sing and dance and do this? But so I give her so much respect. I know that sounds silly, but I do because I literally was on my treadmill today and I was like, I can barely, like, do 2 things at once, and she's out there killing it, and I do. So no Taylor Swift haters. Like, I can see someone out there listening to this because whatever, but she's great and so much respect. And I mean, obviously, that kind of goes into what else our podcast, we talk about mental health and mental health awareness. For you, how important is mental health awareness to you?
It's huge, because it's something that I dealt with at a very young age, not only myself, but just
Mhm,
my mom as well. Um, and just watching people not get the proper help because we don't have enough, healthcare workers or there's not
mhm.
enough resources. It's sad to watch people go down that rabbit hole. And once you're down far enough, sometimes, it's going to take a while to get back up. So it's played a huge part. That's kind of where my eating disorder stems off of was my mom. But, you know, waiting, a year to get in to see somebody is a little
Mhm.
outrageous.
Yeah.
So that's where music kind of became my outlet because the doctors were, some of them will just brush it off. Oh, you know, you just have anxiety.
Mm.
No, it's an eating disorder.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of began with me.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if you're open to sharing, what helped you navigate your eating disorder and just that? Like, what I'm sure getting the proper care and going to that, because I know we had a guest, Bailey, who shared her journey in that. And my eyes were open in the interconnection of the two, mental health and that. Where are you at today with that? Are you doing okay?
So it's a daily struggle. I've
Yeah.
tried inpatient, but you have to meet certain qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
I can meet them one day, but if you don't meet them the next day, they drop you per insurance, which is how they kind of, send them on your way. So I've had to
Yeah.
kind of find ways to kind of deal with it on my own. Going to, outpatient and just getting a daily check of the weight, that is more triggering to me than just finding a way to handle it myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the worst part about anything mental health, um, is the accessibility. Like, I had to go throughout, like, the last couple years, I had to go without my mental health care, which was not a good situation, but, like, my insurance was awful and, still paying an arm and a leg, but it's like the accessibility is just whether it is, say, an eating disorder or mental health, or just anything, like, even me in my diagnosis and wanting to maybe see, "Hey, I know you say I have a generalized anxiety disorder, but I think, like, there's some ADHD in there, and I think there's this and that." There's at least right now, I'm looking at it like a year wait. I'm
Yeah,
like, "So I have to wait a year to just." And, I mean, right now I'm self-diagnosing because I'm like, "What else am I gonna do?" But
yeah,
that's just it really has to change with our mental health because that's not okay,
it's
whether it
only
is.
getting worse.
Yeah, I'm like, "Okay, so now I have to wait a year? Okay. Like, alright, thanks, guys." I think that's what deters people too from getting the care because it's like, "Why?" Okay.
I bother.
And it's so expensive too, like, we've been really thankful we're in a different position now in our lives, but, like, 2 ago, like, each therapy appointment was, like, $200. Okay, I can't afford that, so I guess I
Right.
have to have my own therapy. I guess this is the therapy now.
Yeah.
But, um, but it is, and what do you think has to happen, I guess, to maybe end the stigma of mental health? I mean, obviously accessibility, right?
Right.
Um, but do you think, like, maybe if certain people keep the conversation going would help? What do you think?
I think, no, we had a point in time where like it was talked about and it was kind of
Yeah,
like Warped Tour. They always had different booths with it.
yeah,
And it was at that point, everyone was very welcoming. Then, that stopped.
mhm,
So at least our group, in a sense, is still held together. But now we have all these other generations where they didn't have that foundation. They
yeah,
didn't get to watch all those different people say, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter, you know, someone is here next to you. That it's just we need to kind of have more people advocating, I would say,
mhm,
because we don't have it like we used to. While we have
no,
people like Taylor or Selena, it's not that's not going to cover everyone because like not everyone does it like Taylor. So
mhm,
how's that gonna unless
right.
they really listen, they don't have that.
Right. I mean, that's 100% because I said in our previous podcast when we started it, that's when Selena's documentary came out. What was it? I Am Me or something.
Yeah.
I gotta get the title or something, but that really opened my eyes that she had bipolar disorder, and I think she was so just I loved that documentary, and, like, anybody else listening to this, like, go watch it because, like again, but like you said, if they don't like those people or they think a certain way, they're not gonna listen. They're gonna be like, "Whatever." They're just saying and the other thing is too, they're gonna say, "Oh, they just want attention," when they really deal with these things, so it's like, I think you're totally right with the Love on Her Arms because to write Love on Her Arms was everywhere. And
Yeah.
whether people liked that or not, it was out there. I know there's great, like, organizations, like, I'm looking at, like I have my bracelet, like, the Hope for the Day. They're great in Chicago, where it's okay to not be okay, but a lot of people have no idea about that organization either, and I'm like, "Gotta do that," because, I think the more we talk about it, better, but it's also hard sometimes to talk about it, so, like, I appreciate people like you or other people that wanna come on because it's not easy, and I just think we have a long way to go. We've come a long way, but we still have such a long way to go to end this stigma, and I'm hoping whatever happens I know everyone's talking about the election coming up, and I'm not gonna get political, but I just hope that mental health is, like, at
The
the
top.
forefront.
Yeah.
It's at the top because it's so important. I know so many people, like, that struggle during the holidays too. I'm one of them, and
Yeah.
it's tough. So I don't so I guess to bring it up, because I know so but to bring it up a little bit too, like, I know you've tapped into this passion, we talked about photography, but for you, how important has photography been in your life, since it's kind of come back in your life a little bit?
Yeah. So it was back in high school, I would say, just using a small digital camera
Yeah.
and or even my phone at that point. I think I had a BlackBerry, and I was taking these photos that I don't even know what they look like anymore.
Yeah.
But I went to a program during high school for it, and it got to a point where we were photographing just obsolete things over and over again. And I'm that person where if I'm not invested in what I'm doing, kind of check out.
Mhm.
So there was a point in time I wouldn't pick up a camera for 2, 3 years. Um, and once I kind of got settled with retail and everything, I was like, I need my camera back because
Mhm.
it was always a place I could go and escape from everything else. How it became, and then I just have honestly, I made a promise to one of my friends, I'm going to do it this time, and if you see me stop, you start yelling.
Mhm. I love that, and I just you remind me so much of when we had Bailey on because one of her things was, when she was going through her eating disorder and her mental health, she couldn't pick up the camera, and she was saying how it was Andrew McMahon and that environment of, "I'm gonna pick up this camera. I'm gonna do this," and that's what's led her to have that moment, and there was a period where she didn't pick up the camera, so it just reminded me so much of her in doing that, and I think we can all relate to that too, that there's
Yeah,
something like, there was a period where nobody believes me that I didn't listen to music. I didn't seek out music for months, and, like, anyone that knows me is like, "No way." But I just when you're in a dark place, some of those passions get pushed aside, so it was like,
yeah,
I was so similar to you where it was last year, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do it. I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't know how to do anything. I'm just gonna do it." And, it might be, like, the most makeshift kinda thing, but I'm gonna get out there and do it. And, like, here I am a year later, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," like, I'm doing it, like, and it's out there, and so happy that you're out there doing it again because I know, like, we've talked too where, like, you wanted to
yeah,
do it, and you're like, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing it," and special people that have kind of played a role in that journey would be the Warped Band. Uh,
yeah.
how did that relationship form? And I guess, what do you love the most about working with them? Because I can tell, like, it's a mutual respect between you two. Like, and I love to see that.
So it randomly, there's a bar that they'll have, random artists play at.
Yeah.
Um, and I saw a work tour on their Facebook page. I was like, do I do this message or do I not?
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Oh, right. That's the hardest part.
because I know that you don't really need a pass to get in. You can
Mhm.
just take your camera in.
Yeah.
But we all know how I am. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be 100%.
Yeah.
So I just kind of reached out, and I reached out to the lead singer, Drew, and, you know, yeah, and it turned into something that's probably changed my life. I wouldn't have done it. I don't know if I would have continued with the camera.
Wow, and, like, they know they've made that impact on you because that's a huge impact to say that, you know, that such a like, not having that moment. I don't know if we talk about that journey today with you.
I think to some extent they might, but
Uh
they will find out.
Yeah, well, they'll find out now if they listen to this now. They're such a fun band. I literally checked out some of their stuff because of you, and I'm, like, literally, whenever we decide on some kind of party, reception, whatever, for our marriage, I was like, "Gee, like, this would be such a fun band to have." They fit me and what I'm about, so it's like, I could never have, like, a normal band. I could never have
Yeah,
that, and they, like, I love what they do, and so I hope this also brings people to them because, like, and I love that they've just been great. Because even in this podcast, there's people that I know, and you're one of them, of my friends that have pushed me to do it, and even when I had to relaunch it, we're like, "Hey, like, keep going, keep doing it," and those people are just so special. So
yeah,
I it makes me even, again, wanna push people more toward like, these are just good people, and that's oh,
yeah.
I love that. I love that for you so much, and again, like, sending if you didn't send that message, right? Like, there's some people we try to get on the podcast, and I think, like, if you never send that message, like, you could get a no, and you could get a no like, be left unread, or you could get what happened to you, and it completely changed so much for you.
Just don't know until you try.
Right, yeah. I guess, like, yeah, if anyone's listening, whatever it is, like, you never know if you're gonna be good, like, you're never gonna know if you're good at something unless you try, and you may suck at it, like, I'll be honest, I even before this, we had these technical issues that were, I don't know, maybe on my end for all I know, and, like, shit happens, so it's
Right.
good. But I guess if someone else is listening too that wants to get involved in concert, show photography, or just, that kinda element, what advice would you give them? Because I'm sure, like, starting out and even doing what you are now when you go do stuff, there's a lot that you probably have learned along the way.
I would say don't let it intimidate you. There's a lot
Mhm.
of photographers out there. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean anyone is better than any other. Everyone has their own style. So you can't let the intimidation stop you. I know when years ago, I would go through and look at other people's pictures and compare them. And I was like, wait, why am I
Yeah.
doing this? This is
Right.
of nature. I'm not even doing that. So that one is probably a really big one because yours is everyone's pictures are going to be different, a different angle, a different style, different editing, all different. That's probably the biggest, but don't stop the first time. Like keep going with it because sometimes it does turn into something beautiful.
I think I think back in the day, we all thought we were good at photography with our disposal at, like,
We thought we
concerts,
were great.
and, like, oh and there have been some great shots I've gotten. Immediately at the flyaway, there was one of
Oh yeah,
Pete over there, and, like, I just think of that, and, I think it's so intimidating because a lot of people I don't know if you've experienced this, a lot of people, when they wanna get into photography, it's like you can't get a photo pass unless you show what you've done. But you can't show what you've done if you have no opportunities.
right.
How are you supposed to build that kind of, like,
It's a
either
very hard
resume or, like, how do you do that? And it's I don't know, like, it just photography for me, it's like you said, there's a lot of photographers out there, and I think you have to find your own style, and I've seen your stuff, like, I love because I feel like when you take the pictures that I've seen, it's like you're there, and I think those are the important photographers of concert photography because it's like, if you're not there, you wanna be there and feel that, and I just can't wait to see where you go with it. Like, I know and, like, I'm so proud of you, and that's, like, on anyone I have on here. That's not to say if I haven't asked anyone else yet, but anyone I have on here, I'm just so proud, and I'm so happy, and I wanna showcase you guys too, so I can't wait to see where you're gonna be like a year from now.
Yeah,
And
I
it
have
is.
some plans, but we'll see where it goes.
There we go. There, hey, like but I'm with you because I feel that struggle even with this is if I wanna reach out to certain people, well, you have to show that you've done this or you wanna show this. And it's difficult starting out in anything. So I love that you've stuck with it because I'm sure it is not easy at all. Because I've talked to other photographers that have done things like Riot Fest, and they've said
Yeah,
like it's not easy at all to get
it's a
those.
cutthroat industry.
Yeah, and I had no idea. No, I mean, I guess I should have assumed. But even like in that, I'm talking about mental health, being in this cutthroat industry and wanting to do photography. How do you kind of keep your mindset, in a good spot when maybe you have rejection or you don't like anything you've taken, Maybe you're taking a bunch of pictures and you're like self-critical, like that I'm the same way. So,
Yeah.
um, anything I put out, I hate. I'll be like, "Oh, I that sounds like that." So, how do you kind of keep yourself in check during those moments?
I would say I'm just that person that doesn't take no for an answer, first of all.
Mhm.
So it has to get very bad for me to, finally say this is it.
Yeah.
But really, like, if a photo doesn't turn out, edit it. At the worst case, you can go shoot another show. It's
Mhm.
not the end all be all. And honestly, there's so many photos out there. You could Google concert photography, and not everyone is crystal clear. You can throw black and white on there, it'll be okay. There's so much with AI right now that you can fix some things. It's just kind of like all try on error, really.
Yeah, that think that's good for someone to hear that. There's light there. If you're not, if you're not happy with something or and I think at the end of the day we are like our own worst critics. Like
Oh, yeah.
nobody's paying attention to how that photo came out or how I edited an episode. Like nobody cares. We
Yep.
care, right? Because it's our
Yeah.
art. And we're kind of talking about shows. I know that you have some upcoming dates with the Warped Band. What are you most excited about with those dates coming up?
Honestly, just with things going on at work and just need a little bit of a break. And
Yeah.
to be able to do it with my photography is, one of the ways I like to get rid of my stress. But it's really exciting too, just to kind of, be able to follow them and watch them grow and continue to get bigger and bigger. So it's kind of a special moment. They have a lot of things they're going to be announcing soon. So it's been kind of fun just to see it grow very slowly, kind of how it did with Popeye. It was that
Oh,
kind of special moment.
yeah, and that's almost like your full circle moment a little bit because
Yeah.
like what happened with Fall Out Boy, I mean, I tell people all the time when people think, it's a little ridiculous. I'm like, "Oh, I saw them in this little like, I didn't see them in a basement, but I saw them in a very like a small
Yeah.
like VFW and it's like to
Yeah.
see them now and it's like bands like the Warp Band or any band I have on here, I'm like they could be in a year. Some of these bands have played Four Chord Festival, Old Neon did, the band When the Sun Sets, they're getting some other, um, opportunities too. I'm like, they could be that band, so, like, to kinda give back to that. I'll have to keep an eye. I'm waiting for them to come around Jersey because I have not seen yet, because I would love to see them play, or maybe I just have to take a trip up to you guys and see what's going on because I would
I,
love to see them play.
I will see what I can do for you, but I'm all about Jersey, North Jersey, because we all know Ashley won't drive over the bridge or the
Oh.
highway there. So,
Let me tell you, I spent some time in Philadelphia. Obviously, with G's accident, he was in the Philadelphia
yeah.
hospital. Driving over those bridges, oh my God. You talk about, your mental health and your anxiety. And I know anyone else listening is like, oh, whatever. I literally, I would have to put on whatever music just to calm me and soothe me over those bridges. And there was one time it was a bad storm and like my car is shaking. I'm like, I remember just getting to the hospital and it was like an hour and a half away to Philadelphia to where we are. And no, never. Like, I hate it, and that's why a lot of times when the concerts and tours go to New York, I tend to not unless, okay, can I take the train? Like, is it Madison Square Garden where you just go underneath and go in? Because if it's anything else and I have to go on a bridge, forget it. No, I won't do it. Like, much like parallel parking, I won't do it. So, um, but, But I guess too, you kinda touched on I mean, I know photography and music, but what are some of those things you turn to in your self-care where, like, maybe if your mental health is just a little down or you're just in a rut, what are little things you do? So maybe if someone's listening, they're like, maybe I haven't tried that. Maybe I'll try that. What are some of those things that kind of help you on whether it's a bad mental health day or just like a tough time?
As cliche as it sounds, sometimes I would literally just get in my car and I would just go drive
Yeah.
wherever. Um, Usually, and sometimes just in silence, just to kind of
Mhm.
take it all out and just focus on driving, just to kind of have a different perspective. There's other times where everyone knows I get my hair done way too much, but
Yeah.
it takes away some of the stress that, I go through.
Yeah, and that's so important you said that, like, the drive is my thing too. I'm a big driver. And sometimes, like you said, in silence, it's not always music, but
Right.
sometimes just to get out there and kind of have that and clear your head because it's so important. I'm the same way with my hair lately. It's such a self-care thing. And I know, again, sorry, all guys listening to this, maybe you go get your hair done too. But it's such a great thing. And I
Yeah.
love, um, Jarek, who does my hair, and I love it because we have that relationship where I can vent about stuff, and I think little things like that people don't think about. And I mean, even if you can't go to the salon, like, even if you just wanna do your hair nice, that's a self-care, or a nice
Right. That's
shampoo or whatever. Like, just do these self-care things, and I don't think anyone has said about the hair or the drive yet, so that's really good because we can all just get in the car and drive, and it's
yeah.
just such a freeing thing to do, and I know we try to stay up to date with music. I mean, and we talked about the Warp Band a little bit, but,
Yeah.
what I would love to know, what are some bands or what are you listening to right now? Like, whether it's getting you through anything, or you just like it, because maybe there's something on your radar that's not on our radar, and, or anyone else listening too, right? Like, maybe it's not on their radar. What are some of those people you're listening to right now?
Honestly, I'm still that person that I think is like stuck in,
Uh,
2005-ish. Um, Really, like the Academy has been a big thing lately.
yeah.
Census Fail, Good Charlotte.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, just those, classic ones that, kind of started it for a lot of them. A lot of the stuff with, FBR.
Mm,
It's still like, I know you touched on like the Hush Sound. Like
yeah.
just kind of going back to some of those bands that, we really did grow up with are now starting to do more. And just seeing, the younger crowd now get to enjoy that.
I'm with you. I'm still stuck in it. There's some newer bands that I get into,
Yeah.
um, but I always go back to that. Like, I always go back to that, I guess emo. I hate calling it, but it is, like, and I find too that there's other people too, because whenever I'll post like a reel or anything like that to try and, just stay in the algorithms. The ones that hit the most are when I'm talking about a band from back in the day. Like,
Yep.
those are the ones that people are like, "Oh my gosh, I love this band," or like, "I can't believe this album's turning 20 years," and, we're still listening to them right now. So, it has to be something special, and I mean, so you have to be excited about this kind of revival and everything too.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's
it's so good, and, like, honestly, too, a band I'm not even thinking of that I know means a lot to you that I'm like, "Oh, you gotta touch on this because 'cause they're, like, hometown boys," is Mest. I know Mest is a band that you have
that's
adored and still do, right? Like, how how have they made an impact in your life?
that along with Ball Boy, this one's been very different. One of the guys in the work band is actually a huge fan of Tony as well. And, they've played some of our smaller venues here really randomly, um, doing meet and greets that were reasonable for this day, versus paying, the $275. We're only paying 50 now.
Oh, I know, yeah.
But just, I saw Tony, starting back, oh geez, 2003. and just kind of following that. It's almost like a Pete thing. He
Mhm.
doesn't know your name.
Right.
He knows your face. He knows what location you're kind of coming from. But it's kind of just, both that connection. Like now he has kids, I have
Mhm.
kids.
Yeah.
He'll pick up during the meet and greets, he'll pick up his phone and, introduce his son. And it's just, a special moment to be able to grow up with these people.
Yeah, and I have such a funny well, I don't know in these days how people would think it was funny, but I thought it was funny back in the day at Warped Tour with Mest and Tony. Um, and obviously Tony Lovato, the lead singer, if anyone doesn't know Mest. But come on, you know Mest. But I feel like I was at Warped Tour. I don't even know how I was young. I had to be like
Okay.
18, 19, but or maybe even younger. I don't even remember. But anyways, there were fans out and it was kind of by the buses and
Yeah.
he was like talking with everybody and he was just inviting people to a kegger because obviously they were from Illinois, like the suburbs,
Right.
Chicago.
Yeah.
So they were in their home state. So I guess they were wanting to throw a kegger and just inviting everybody. And I was in a group of people, admittedly a young person. Okay. So
Right.
I'm not trying to say anything like no idea how old I was. I was just standing around being like, oh, that's Tony. Like that's Mest.
Yeah.
This kegger. And I did not go because I was young and I was like, I'm not going. But it was just like that's how he was, and that's how it was
Right.
back in the day. You would be invited to all these things.
Yeah.
Maybe you would go, maybe you wouldn't go, but I just thought it was the coolest thing. I was like, "Oh my God." Like again, not directly inviting, but it was just he was one of those people that if you were around,
Right.
he
That
wanted to
was
include
included.
you. And it was
Yeah.
like so awesome. And again, I love Mest forever. And I hope somehow I can catch them again. Because I know they're popping up at shows, like they're doing stuff here and there. So, but yeah, I was like, I have to share that we somehow I was invited to this kegger that like I didn't go to. Maybe I should have gone because like that would have been an amazing story. But yes, love to Tony.
Yeah.
Again, like I just want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and being so open, whether it was your mental health and your journey of your photography. And again, like you love your music. Like anybody that knows you knows that with your shows. And I think it's really going to catapult you into your photography. And I'm sure like maybe even someone listening here, if you need somebody like look, Ashley is pretty local. Like, look, she's not in Jersey, but I mean, there's a couple people out there in that area that I'm sure I'll send them your way maybe a little bit and be like, hey, but if somebody wants um, to find you or your work or connect, where can they find you? Like, I know there's the Instagram page, and but I think if they hear it instead of me just type it out, I'll leave everything in the description. But where can people find you if they want to check you out?
So I do have an Instagram right now. I'm gonna let you do kind of the links. I'm in the process of rebranding everything. Obviously, my red hair is a giveaway to
Yeah.
anybody that I meet. I just get called the redhead. It's been that way
Yeah.
for how long? So I was actually talking to the one of the guys in the band, and we came up with this name, Red Spark.
Uh,
Credit for that, but I'm kind of going through each account now. So I kind of started with the website and I'm just redoing every little thing to kind of align. So I'll kind of give you the links because it's all very random at the moment.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. And I'll have those all in our description, everything. But again, thank you so much. Like it was so good to be face to face too, because we'll go comment and stuff and it's like that. And again, I just hope the best for you in this new journey with this
Thank
photography because it's really cool to see and they're in the area. Where are those shows? I know they're coming up, right? The 12th or is it the 13th? Um
So we have, so Altoona would be the first one. And then we're going to Columbus, Ohio. So let me pull it up because I have the worst memory ever. So yeah, the 12th is Altoona, and then the 13th is Columbus, Ohio.
so yeah, if anyone's in those areas, like go check
At
out the
least
work
at
there.
Baltimore, I don't know how far of a drive that is for you. I don't know if you have any bridges, but that one's
Yeah.
on the 26th.
Oh, so I'll have to see. I don't know. I don't know. I've always wanted to go to Baltimore. We had a guest, Oh my gosh, I love her so much. Oh, Genevieve from Soul Meets Body. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I've been wanting to go to Baltimore because that's where they're based out of. So who knows? Maybe I'll make my way out there. That would be really, really cool. But anyone else out there, maybe we'll just take a road trip and like not go on the bridges because yeah, no, they're the worst. So, but again, oh, all right, guys. And that was our conversation with Ashley Pineryo. I was so excited to talk to her. And this was such a great conversation. And I really appreciate her switching the day of the time because originally we had something else planned. We were going to do it. And she jumped in right away and was like, all right, let's do this. And I really appreciate her because I know when you go on a podcast, it sometimes isn't the easiest thing. And she was so great to talk to. And I really loved having her on. And we had a couple technical difficulties in the beginning on both of our ends. So, you know what? Hey, we're getting right back into this thing. All right. It's been a hot minute. But again, I'll have all her links below where you can find Ashley, where you can find the Warped Band, um, and all that good stuff below. As always, guys, you will hear us next Tuesday, bright and early. We have so much on the horizon. I can't wait to share. And I really appreciated what Ashley shared with us, and I think a lot of us can relate to it and how music has played a role in that. But you guys will hear Justine and I back together doing this thing next Tuesday, bright and early. All right. Bye, guys.